all knew would get asked. In the history of science, the laws of attraction is a phrase used to describe the perceived nature of bodies that have a tendency to attract or repel each other. In 391 BC, Plato built on the conception of philia, or attractive force, and Nikos, repulsive force, by postulating the first law of affinity that says like tends toward likes. Example, earth to earth, water to water, so forth and so on. In 1250, Albertus Magnus applied the conception of affinity to chemical systems and postulated 4 laws of affinity. Our next few questions are going to be built on this history. Mary Jane.
Really?
Yes.
Do you believe that likes attract? And can something be too much like the other that it can be a negative?
Wow. Thank you for that question. Table Topics Master. Right away, when you think about opposites and whether they attract or if likeness attracts to one another, my first thought is dating. Now, I know you married folk in the room don't think about dating, but when you're single, it kind of consumes you. Especially when your parents, who are like, you're really close to 30, where's your husband? And I tell them, he's still trying to find me. It's not an acceptable answer. So constantly I'm in this trying to find maybe someone who's similar to me. I think that's what a lot of dating profiles do nowadays, is there's all these pre-qualifiers, and logistically, are they in your neighborhood? Are they the same religion as you? Do they make a similar income to you? Do they like the same interests as you? And for that, I think that likenesses play very well to finding someone who's compatible for you, because then you share common interests. You can go do activities together. I'd like to go running with someone and travel with them. But what if they did everything I like to do? So much so that I feel like I'm dating myself, and it's kind of narcissistic. I would want someone more diametrically complementary to my personality. And that way, we can learn from one another. I recently went out of the South Bay bubble. If you live in this area, it's all engineers, it's all the same kind of personality, I hate to say that, and I ventured into Venice, Abbot Kinney, where there's musicians and just artsy folk, and I have to say, the differences in those types of individuals really sparked my curiosity. So though I think like-minded people attract, I also think there's something to be said about that curiosity that's sparked with someone who is different from you. I still am looking for that person. Thank you.
Great.
That's, I'm talking to you.
Thank you, Mary Jane. In the 1950s, in opposition to Plato's law of affinity, sociologist Robert Winch proposed the opposites attract theory, arguing that people are attracted to those whose needs conversely match his or her own. Sharon, do opposites really attract? And have you ever been hell-bent on someone opposite or that you least expected?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. I would venture to say that yes, opposites do attract. When I met my husband in 1999, I am very gregarious, very talkative, and he is not. He's very reserved, very conservative, very much an introvert. We have complemented each other through the years because my overshadowing personality does not have to compete with his more quiet and lax personality. We are diametrically different, yet we again complement one another. A case in point is a few months ago I mentioned to him that he hardly spoke when we were around other people. He has conversations for people, but unless there's a topic that he's really interested in, like the Dallas Cowboys or something like that, he really doesn't have a lot to say. And his response to me when I said, why don't you talk in big groups? He says, well, I don't speak unless I have something to say. I thought to myself, what a concept. I said, I have an opinion on everything, and I give it freely, whether people want it or not. And if they want it, that's even more fuel for me to go in there and let people know what I have to say and what my opinion is about whatever the topic is. But I would say, yes, that opposites do attract, and if you don't believe that opposites attract, I would do just like Mary Jane did and go out and do something a little bit different. Go outside your comfort zone and step outside that bubble and see what the world has to offer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Our next question. In particle physics, force carriers are particles that give rise to forces between other particles. These particles are bundles of energy of a particular kind of field. From the infamous movie series Star Wars, we have all heard, "The Force be with you." From the movie Nutty Professor, when dreaming about being in space, Herman passed gas and his father said, "The Force is strong with that one." What force would you choose to be with you if you could? Aaron.
With forces being so diametrically different from negative to positive, I'd have to choose something that can be both. The force that I would have with me is to connect with people on a way that they could really, it really captures their why. I can tell them ideas that are diametrically different than their values, but seeing, not necessarily their values, but actually seeing my values or the purpose behind it, then they're changed. They're not a hard-hearted people. Because we live in a society of hard-hearted people, and I want to be able to connect with them and be, I like to fish, so a fisher of men, if you will. And in order to do that, you have to hook them. And in order to hook them, you have to be authentic and get to their what's important. Oftentimes, we speak to people, and they won't listen until years later when it hits them. My force would be to grab people in the moment, grasp them in the moment. If I do that, things will be diametrically different in a way, because I think society will be helped a lot. I think that being able to have this and connect with people, you won't have things like today maybe at UCLA, or at least people will be conscious enough to step outside of their comfort zone, stop out in front of the screen and learn a little bit. Thank you.
All right. To switch things up a little bit, Weston, you want to pass off your timing rules?
Oh, yes.
Feng Shui is an ancient art and science over 3,000 years old. Simply put, it reveals how to balance the energies of any given space to assure health and good fortune for those within that space. Interestingly, Feng means wind and Shui means water. At first thought, these two combined could mean tsunami. But in Chinese, they are associated with good health. What are two or more things that on first thought sound crazy and possibly destructive, but turned out great? Weston.
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. Two things that you thought were bad, but turned out great.
Yes, when brought together,
When
sounded bad or crazy, but ended up to be good.
Oh, this is an easy one. Going back to what everyone else has been talking about, relationships. Me and my wife were completely diametrically opposites. I met my wife when we were in middle school. We went to the same church. I didn't go to the same school as her, but we did not like each other right off the bat. We were friendly, you know, she would actually write me letters and I would not write her back. But I asked her now, like, did you like me back then? Because you wrote me all these letters. She's like, no, I didn't. I just, had a lot of free time. So in high school, we ended up going to the same high school, and that's where we couldn't stand one another. I recently found a box full of my old letters from other friends, and my wife's name is Lisa, and other friends would write me, so is Lisa bothering you today? So what did Lisa do to you today? And I'm sure I wrote back something that annoyed me for that day, or that week, or whatever. College, we always stayed in touch somehow. I don't know how we did, but we always just, I either called her when I was coming home late or something just to keep me awake, and then eventually I asked her to one of my fraternity events, and then the sparks flew, one thing to another. Now we're married, 2 kids. But I think that's a good example of 2 things where, pretty much our entire lives we were opposites, and in our sense we didn't really get along all that well, but then brought together, we created a family, and we have such a wonderful life that we're living now.
Right.
Thank you.
That's a quickly frat party. Now married kid.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Frat party, 2 kids.
You stay away.
I was thinking about, someone told me at a function I had this weekend about things they mixed together for a drink. And I was looking at them, and I can't remember right now what they were, but something interesting. It was like ice cream and a certain alcohol and soda. And I was like, that does not sound good. And he said, no, it didn't to me either, but I'm telling you, it's great. And I told him, well, when I get the balls to try it, I'll let you know how I feel about it. But relationships, it is so true. I've told my husband many times, if I knew him, I might even go as far as to say 6 months to a year prior to the time I met him, we probably would not have made it. I would have said, you are on a completely different diametric path than myself. So it was nice, but I'm going to see you later. Going forward, Doug. In paint pigments, pure yellow, pure red, and pure blue are the only hues that cannot be created by mixing other colors together. Printer inks, therefore, are referred to as yellow, magenta, and cyan. On the contrary, when you combine any 2 of the pure hues, you get 3 new mixtures called secondary colors, and then on to tertiary colors. If you could create a new color, what colors might it involve, and what would it be called?
Ooh.
Wow.
Madam Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, most welcome guests. The color is green, and it's not green as in muddy, it's green as in plant life. There are a great many people who believe that green was omitted as a primary color because you can make it from other colors. But think about it. When you think of the times when you're having the best moments, aren't we either on a golf course or in the forest? Right? Surrounded by green. You go to the supermarket and you look at the stuff that's really, really healthy. Broccoli, kale, cabbage. Most of it's green. Some of it's blue and purple, but most of it is green. I have actually a background in printing. I worked for a commercial printer for many years, so I am actually quite comfortable with this subject. And I chose to prevaricate, which is diametrically opposed to what you asked, and spoke about the color green. And there are people that truly believe that green should be considered primary because of its importance and its uniqueness. That doesn't change the fact that you can still make green by combining yellow and blue. Madam Table Topics.